For commercial divers, the time they spend underwater isn't just about clocking hours, it's a meticulously defined metric called real bottom time that draws a stark line between competence and sheer danger. The International Diving Schools Association, or IDSA, has made this the cornerstone of safety in an unforgiving environment, yet it's a concept often misunderstood even by experienced recreational divers. Eleanor, what exactly is real bottom time in this context, and why is it so critically important?
Well, Maggie, the real bottom time isn't simply the period a diver spends in the water. The IDSA, which has been setting global standards since its foundation in 1982, defines it very strictly. It's the precise lapse of time from the beginning of compression, meaning when the diver starts the descent, until the exact moment they begin the ascent or decompression. It's not about floating around and admiring marine life, it's about executing heavy, complex tasks under immense pressure, often in zero visibility, such as rigging, welding, or using hydraulic tools.
So the distinction truly lies in the cognitive and physical workload, not just the depth. Yet, Theodore, I often see very experienced recreational divers, the so-called technical divers who reach extreme depths, wondering why they cannot simply convert their certifications into commercial qualifications. If someone has hundreds of hours of recreational diving at 60 meters, why does the regulation, and particularly IDSA, reset that counter to zero when it comes to professionalism?
Because the two activities, despite both taking place underwater, share only the fluid element. IDSA standards, specifically in Table 6, are very clear. Recreational diving experience simply cannot be counted towards the required bottom time, not even for Level 1, which is the basic qualification. A recreational diver explores. Their main focus is managing their buoyancy and breathing gas. A commercial diver, an OTS or operational diving technician, goes down to work. When you are 30 meters deep, connected to the surface by an umbilical providing gas, communications and hot water, operating a cutting torch, managing your dive becomes secondary. It has to be automatic. Your brain is entirely focused on the mechanical task and the environmental risks. Without real bottom time spent performing those exact tasks in training, you are a danger to yourself and your team.
That direct comparison really highlights the difference. This brings us directly to the issue of shortcuts, which, in any industry demanding hundreds of hours of costly training, are almost inevitable. How do these shortcuts manifest in commercial diving, and why are they so lethal?
Shortcuts usually appear through the falsification of logbooks, the diving records, or via unaccredited schools that issue certifications without providing the necessary real bottom time. Some facilities promise commercial certifications in just a few weeks, having candidates perform short dives in clear waters without any real industrial tasks. This generates a dangerous false sense of competence. Intervention diving, often called bounce diving, requires rapid descent, intense work, and critical decompression. If an operator hasn't internalized the stress of these operations in a controlled environment, an unexpected event, an umbilical entanglement, a communications failure, can trigger an untrained survival instinct, almost always leading to panic.
And panic underwater is, as you said, almost certainly a death sentence. And here is where national legislation, particularly Italian legislation, forcefully steps in, having erected a legal wall against these shortcuts. Italy has a very long tradition linked to maritime operations, from the old helmet divers in local service to modern Navy clearance divers. How does this training rigidity translate into legal texts?
Italian legislation is historically among the strictest. The legal bedrock dates back to the ministerial decree of 13 January 1979, which established the register of divers in local service at the harbour masters' offices, demanding stringent training. Over decades, regulations have evolved to embrace international standards. Documents from bodies like HDS Italia show that high-level qualifications, aligned with IDSA or EDTC, require a minimum of 500 training hours, with at least 350 being real diving. The Italian legal system simply does not recognize titles from incomplete training. If a harbour master inspector examines a commercial diver's logbook and finds the bottom times don't match industrial task standards, that operator is legally classified as untrained.
That untrained label isn't just a technical assessment, it's a devastating legal status, preventing operation in ports or on offshore platforms. But the legislation hasn't stood still since 1979. The regulatory framework is being drastically updated to close every possible bureaucratic loophole. Is that right?
Exactly. The system is becoming impermeable to fraud. In July 2025, the Italian Senate approved Bill number 1462, which reorganizes safety in underwater and hyperbaric activities. This new regulation transforms the old register into the Register of Professional Underwater and Hyperbaric Operators, and, crucially, introduces the electronic personal logbook. We're moving beyond faded stamps on paper. Every single dive, every minute of real bottom time must be digitally tracked and validated. The law explicitly states that omitting or altering this data means immediate suspension of the logbook's validity. Anyone seeking a shortcut will be literally disconnected from the job market.
Digital traceability at that level eliminates any margin for interpretation, but there's a responsibility beyond the individual diver. What happens to the diving companies, the contractors, who try to cut costs by hiring personnel trained through these shortcuts?
Companies that employ non-compliant personnel face enormous criminal and economic consequences. The penalties for both operators and companies, detailed in Chapter 5 of the new bill, are ruthless. If an accident occurs, the first thing the judicial authority examines is the bottom time register. If it emerges that the worker was in a bounce diving operation at 50 meters without certified real bottom time, the company is liable for criminal negligence. IDSA works precisely to create a level playing field, a fair playing ground, where no company can win an international contract by compromising diver safety and training.
That explains why IDSA has become the gold standard, even requiring independent audits, not just trusting the schools themselves. They send external inspectors who speak the school's language to verify that real bottom time is actually delivered and not just simulated. But there's an element of friction that interests me. How do national regulations, like Italy's, integrate with foreign certifications? If an Italian diver trains in Great Britain or Norway following IDSA standards, how is that recognized by the Italian system?
It's a complex dynamic, but IDSA helps streamline this through its table of equivalence. Italian regulation allows citizens of other EU member states to register if they hold a suitable qualification from their home country. However, Italy's hard line persists. No training inferior to international standards, such as HSE in the UK or IDSA globally, will qualify for registration in the Italian register. If a foreign certificate is presented, Italian authorities verify if it guarantees the same theoretical hours and, crucially, the same real bottom time required by Italian law. If the foreign school allowed the candidate to skip practical modules, hoping they'd complete training on the job, recognition in Italy is denied.
The severity seems entirely justified when considering the extreme environment. It makes me reflect on on-the-job training in commercial diving. In an office, learning on the job might mean a few spreadsheet errors. At -100 meters, with mixed gases and heavy equipment, a decompensation miscalculation or umbilical cord error is fatal. The fact that IDSA has progressively eliminated the possibility of completing bottom time on the job, mandating all training and verification at school before certification, demonstrates an evolution towards zero tolerance.
Precisely. And this historical transition is vital. Until the early 2000s, IDSA standards sometimes allowed a student who hadn't completed all bottom time at school to gain qualification after accumulating missing hours on the job. But accident statistics and pressure from reputable contractors led to an irrevocable decision in 2008. All bottom time must be completed during the training course. This fundamentally changed diving schools, forcing them to invest in expensive infrastructure, advanced hyperbaric chambers, deep tanks, thermal cutting equipment, solely to deliver those specific hours of real practical experience to their students.
So, the barrier to entry has become economic for training institutes too. You simply cannot teach commercial diving in a municipal swimming pool. This really shows the deep chasm between those who genuinely train professionals and those who peddle bureaucratic illusions. Looking ahead, especially with the electronic personal logbook and mandatory annual health checks at USMAF, the Maritime Medicine Authority in Italy, do you believe shortcuts will become materially impossible?
They will become technically unfeasible and commercially unsustainable. The port doctor, during annual checks, evaluates not only general health, but fitness to operate under pressure based on registered activity. With the electronic logbook, if cross-reference data reveals anomalies between declared diving hours, depth profiles, and executed deconcretion protocols, the system locks up. Harbour Masters offices will have a real-time dashboard on the qualifications of anyone entering the water. Shortcuts thrive in the opacity of paper documents and less controlled ports. The adoption of unequivocal standards like IDSA, combined with Italy's digital surveillance, illuminates every dark corner of this sector.
The underwater environment accepts no compromises, and it seems, finally, neither does the law. Real bottom time is truly the most precious and irreplaceable currency for those who work in the abyss, a crucial bulwark against amateurism that protects human life even before corporate balance sheets. Share this episode with anyone interested in understanding the hidden dynamics of the most extreme professions on our planet.